Testing 1, 2, 3. That's working. Testing. I guess we don't really need this one now anyway. Ready, Erik? Thumbs up. Let's see. I've got some notes here. Well, I think I told you some of the beginning stuff, so I'll move into this pretty quickly. Just so all of you know, that is those of you who maybe are here for the first time, the donation you give, the $4, is to help Erik, our tech person, do what he's doing right now, and also pay for the rental of this space here. That just about covers it. So I want to thank Lynn for putting this all together a decade or so ago. And she's off having fun somewhere, really relaxing, and asks me to do this. At the end, or between each speaker, I'll ask, are there questions? And because it's recorded for YouTube, I hope you will wait till I bring the mic around to ask the question so it ends up on YouTube. Otherwise, it's like this, YouTube, and you don't want that. Okay. Oh, I really want to thank you all for coming, particularly on a beautiful day like today. And you are going to have a spectacular evening, I'm pretty sure. I put together this event and found some wonderful people, and both locally and otherwise, which I will introduce soon. Let's see. Audience, pay. Okay. And I think that's about it. We can get started. Except for this unknown call I'm getting. Okay. All right. We're going to have 3 speakers tonight. Cass Brown, Pamela Phelps, and Kelly Lyles, in that order. Cass will go first. Cass Brown. She is a lifelong artist and creative who forged by a family full of female artists with specialties that range from writing, papercraft, and stained glass. Her grandmother's zest for meticulous gardening in particular was the guiding light that inspired Cass's focus on highlighting the beauty in nature. It's very nice. She's had a circuitous road as an artist that includes detours into patent illustration and branding design that nowadays she channels that creativity into a career as a tattoo artist and watercolor painter who specializes in botanical subject matter in both mediums. Let's all welcome Cass. So you need to talk into the mic.
Okay.
And it moves like this if you need to move it.
All right.
And I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so my first love was watercolor painting. My background was mostly in scientific illustration, hence the detour into patent illustration. But about 3.5 years ago, I started an apprenticeship at a tattoo shop in Olympia called the Copper Wolf. I had always loved tattoos, didn't always know that I wanted to be a tattoo artist, but what appeals to me about tattoos is the same thing that appeals to me about fine art, and that's connecting with one customer is the most important thing to me. I always found that my fine art came easiest to me when I was working on commission for one particular client, and I could see the emotional impact that that art had on that one client. And tattooing is kind of the ultimate form of that. So this is me actually tattooing myself in my apprenticeship, which is how you learn, which was a fun surprise for me. This is the tattoo that I was doing on myself. As you can see, I do love a flower. But yeah, the ethics behind the apprenticeship making you tattoo yourself is that if you make a mistake, you should really do it to yourself and not someone else. So they make you tattoo yourself quite a bit before you can tattoo someone else. I did that one and this one. Yeah, I tattooed myself about 6 or 7 times total, practicing all kinds of different techniques and color, since I knew color was what I wanted to do once I started working on clients. I kind of view my tattoos, this is another one I did on myself, as my portable art collection. So nowadays, now that I don't have to tattoo myself anymore, I get tattooed by artists that I really admire, people that I want to learn from, so that I can kind of sneakily watch them while they tattoo me. But this is me tattooing my dad, who came out to visit me. This is a really special moment for me. He has always been obsessed with rockets, so he kind of gave me that as a concept and let me do whatever I wanted with it. So that's what we did. That is generally how clients come to me. They'll come to me with a general idea or a concept, sometimes a few reference photos. But I do have a fair amount of creative control, which is great. But sometimes people bring me things they want exactly replicated. So that's different. I do all of my designs digitally, so these are some of my tattoo designs that I drew up. I draw everything on my iPad, which allows me to make changes quickly when the client is actually there. So it just allows for a little bit more flexibility, and then I would print off just the lines of these to make a stencil for tattooing. This is a client who brought me something she wanted exactly replicated. This is her child's drawing. I've done a couple of these. These are super fun. Obviously not a lot of creative input on my end, but a super fun time. And always great to see someone's reaction to having a piece of their child with them always is incredible. The most creative control I get is through what we would call flash designs. So these are things that I've drawn up in my free time, and then I would post the digital version on my social media as kind of up for grabs for anybody who wants it. So these are some of my flash designs that were claimed by people, which is always an extra special feeling for me. Just kind of ideas that come to me. Can't fully explain where they come from, but you know, as an artist, sometimes things just occur to us. Yeah. Inspired by all kinds of different things. And these tattoo designs usually only get tattooed once. Once a client claims it, it's theirs. I'll never tattoo it on someone else again. But people get tattooed for all kinds of different reasons. So this was a couple of clients of mine who had just recently gotten married in Colorado. And they wanted something to kind of commemorate that. Something that went together but looked good separately. So they gave me a lot of creative control, and this is what we came up with. I'm pretty proud of it. I like it. They seem to like it too, which is always good. This was a pair of sisters who wanted matching tattoos that weren't super matchy-matchy, so they came to me with the concept of moths that they wanted colored for their each individual personalities. So that was also fun. This one was a client of mine who had just given birth to her first child, a daughter. So she wanted something to celebrate that so that she could keep her daughter with her always. So I always love the tattoos that are really emotional for people. That's when I feel like I've done my job the best. Not to say that other tattoos aren't great. I certainly have some of the other kind as well. This was a client of mine who wanted to celebrate her father's lifelong career on the railroads, so that was really fun too, in a more traditional style. So, and then this one was another one that I got a lot of creative control on as well. My client here, her mother had passed away, and at the funeral she had seen a hummingbird, and now always feels that when she sees a hummingbird, her mother is visiting her. So that was really special for us to work on together. A really collaborative process. She gave me a couple reference photos, but didn't really know what she wanted. So we went back and forth quite a few times and ended up somewhere where we were both really happy. Yeah. Sometimes people want to commemorate lifelong, groups that they've been in. So that's super fun too. Sometimes things are a little bit sillier. So this is just a favorite video game of a client's of mine. So, it doesn't always have to be super emotionally impactful, but it's fun either way. And then travel is also another really big thing that I see a lot. People want to commemorate meaningful trips they've taken. This client had just gotten back from Japan and had some really beautiful, almost spiritual experiences, experiencing another culture. So wanted to be able to keep that with them always. And then I also do cover-ups, which are super fun. Not a lot of tattoo artists will specialize in cover-ups, mostly because a lot of people don't enjoy it. Obviously, you're a lot more restricted when you're working on a cover-up, so sometimes people don't want to mess around with that. But to me, I find reworking a tattoo or even fully covering it up is kind of like solving a really hard puzzle. So it's super satisfying to me. This client obviously didn't want to change the tattoo, just wanted a better version of that same tattoo. Yeah. The inspiration behind it was that this was a tattoo her father had, was a flaming chili pepper on the back of his neck. The father, ironically, always hated the tattoo and regretted getting it, but the daughter always thought it was super funny growing up. So when she turned 18, she decided she would get the same tattoo. Obviously, the first iteration did not work out so great, but we got somewhere great in the end. This was a tattoo cover-up where someone had misspelled a word in the original tattoo, which is like every tattoo artist's nightmare. Luckily, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. I'd like to state that for the record. And I was able to come up with something that's a little more decorative, reminded her of her passion for gardening, a little bit more fun. And then sometimes people just outgrow tattoos. So this was an older tattoo she had gotten when she was very young, as well as just outgrowing the design. She also ran into issues where over time tattoos do bleed a little bit. So if the tattoo is done too small, when the lines and the shading start to bleed, it starts to look a little, what I would call very professionally, mushy. So we covered it with something just a little bit more beautiful. I also do a lot of scar cover-ups. So you can see in here there's just a subtle scar. And she wanted to distract from that, have something a little bit nicer of a memory. This is probably one of the easier scar tattoos I've done. This was a harder one. So this is a C-section scar. Yeah, obviously it's a lot more scar tissue, which presents a lot of issues with tattooing. Sometimes the ink just doesn't go in as well as it's a lot more painful. So we had to do this over, I believe it was 4 or 5 sessions in the end, just because of her pain tolerance level in the area. But she was really happy with it in the end, and so was I. This one is probably the tattoo I'm the most proud of. It's certainly not the most detailed or complicated tattoo I've ever done, but the emotional impact of this one still resonates with me today. So this was a double mastectomy, and just her complete joy at the end of it was probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever experienced. So this one is still one that I show off quite a bit. Yeah, this one actually wasn't started by me. So in this in-progress photo on the I guess your right-hand side, you can kind of see in the shoulder of the snow leopard, the client had started this tattoo with a tattoo artist and had a really, really bad experience with that person, which unfortunately is not uncommon. And I get a lot of clients this way. People come to my shops in particular because it's a private studio. We keep our doors locked. Everybody has separate rooms. So it's a lot safer feeling of an environment. So when she came to me, it was really important to me to make her feel comfortable. Getting tattooed is a very vulnerable thing. Not only are you enduring pain and exposing a part of your body, but you're trusting someone to change your body forever. and I don't ever take that lightly. So working on stuff like this is, although not my design, still equally rewarding. And you can see my scientific illustration background coming through. So I started getting a couple clients who were open to me pitching this idea, which was really great. This is still fairly simplified, but super fun for me. And then from here, I started pushing myself a little bit more. So I went back to the ethos of tattooing yourself. This is my knee. When I wanted to experiment in doing more realistic things, again, do it on yourself before you do it to someone else, tattooing my own knee was not super smart, but, you know, we're here now. And then I did a bunch of my coworkers for free. So this is one of my good friends who allowed me a big chunk of her arm to tattoo her trusty knife in a more detailed style to experiment with some different things. A bunch of other clients that are regulars of mine also allowed me to experiment a little bit on them, which means the world to me, because obviously that's a huge amount of trust to put in me. And I started pushing myself more and more towards color realism, but still using some of the same tattoo graphics and styles, so big, bold outlines, things like that I like. Same here, working a little bit more into detailed work. Same with this one, experimenting with a lot of different techniques. And then obviously a more traditional tattoo subject. The anchor is very classic tattoo, but my kind of spin on it. And then this is what I would like to call the tattoo I did on my knee 2.0 version. This was one of my clients who let me do the same kind of thing on her because she loved the one that I had done on myself so much. As you can tell, it's a blending of traditional tattoo styles, more flat shading, and then the realistic center of the rose. And this is more what I'm doing nowadays. I have nicknamed this style hybrid realism. It's just a word I made up, but I think it works. Some more of the same kind of stuff. This is a client of mine who were working on an entire sleeve in this style, so her whole arm. And each section of flowers are the birth month flowers of someone in her family, so that she can carry her family with her always. So all three of those are sections on her arm. Same kind of a deal. This client's a librarian, if you couldn't make the connection. And then doing the same sort of a thing, but in black and white as opposed to full-blown color. This one was particularly challenging as tattooing the neck is a very small area to work in, as well as I have to balance putting enough pressure on the skin that I can tattoo without choking her accidentally, which was a fine line to walk. But we got there in the end. We had to do about 6 sessions on this, because we could only work for about half an hour at a time due to the pain tolerance of it. And then this is another one in the what I would call hybrid realism style, more realistic elements to it, but also some graphic details, which is something that I'm working into my fine art as well now. So it's kind of a merging of the two worlds. But I also do more just strictly realism stuff. This client is a triathlon athlete, so this was her celebration of that, and it has all the individual races that she's competed in. This one was a memorial piece for her grandfather who had recently passed away, including a lot of different elements. I would call this micro-realism, as the individual elements, say the boat is about this big in real life. So very detailed and time-consuming work. Again, I love a nerdy tattoo. I'm a huge nerd myself, so I tend to attract some nerdy clients just by nature of the beast. And more scientific illustration stuff. I never put it into the universe that I wanted to do these kinds of things. These people just started coming to me. I think I manifested it. And I'm really loving it. I'm doing more and more of that kind of stuff nowadays. Another travel tattoo, but in that more realistic color realism style. Another micro realistic. And then this is a big leg piece that I'm in the midst of right now, working in sections. So these were 2 different sessions on the same leg. This client is actually retiring after 40 years in wildlife work. So we're tattooing every species she worked with during her career, which is about 10 different species all on one leg. So each animal ends up being very, very small. So it's a big challenge for me, but I'm really loving it. And this is probably the tattoo that technicality-wise I'm the most proud of. It's obviously very scientific illustration inspired. The client brought that idea to me, and it felt like kismet. This took about 5 hours to do, although the tattoo is only about this big, just due to the level of detail in it. Yeah, and that's me.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a comment. I thought those were just absolutely wonderful and beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
I noticed that you had some white ink. I'm kind of curious, that's something that wasn't available some years ago. Can you tell us about the latest inks and what is available now?
Yeah, inks have come a very long way over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, but especially in the last 5 or so years. We have a lot more stuff available now. So white ink has been around in concept for about 15 years, but not really good until the past 5 years. It is revolutionary to me. I think it makes a huge difference to be able to get true whites into a piece. But yeah, there's all kinds of different technological revelations in the tattoo industry in about the past 5 years. Things have really changed a lot.
Why was it so hard to create white ink?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know.
It's okay.
Yeah, I know that previously it would go in white, but it would yellow over time. So the chemical structure behind that I'm not clear on, but that was one of the big issues until very recently.
Any other questions?
Where's your shop?
It is in Tumwater, which is just outside of Olympia. It's called the Copper Wolf.
I'm a mortician, and I've been doing that for about 30 years. And when I first started out, we'd ask people for identification of their loved one. And it was the rare female that had a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Now it seems like it's a rare one that does not have a tattoo. But I have been asked by families numerous times for fingerprints of their loved one or cremated remains so they can make it into a tattoo. And I've never asked them how that's done. I was wondering if you could
Yeah, so I've only done that once. So I had a client approach me who wanted to get a tattoo as a memorial for her mother and wanted to include ashes into the ink. So we just literally mix a little bit of ash into our little ink pot and then tattoo with that. I don't know that I would do it again, simply because it makes the tattooing process a lot more difficult. It gums up the cartridge of the needle, so it took maybe twice as long to do a simple tattoo as it should have. So, yeah.
Any other? Louisa?
Do you have any advice for tattooing 75-year-old skin?
Yeah, actually, a lot of my clients are 70 and up, which I think is incredible. A lot of them getting their first tattoos, which is always really fun for me. The major things in like prepping is making sure you're drinking a lot of water, hydrated and moisturized. But the only real difference it makes is that I just go a little bit slower, just so as to not rip skin as opposed to puncturing it. So it just takes a little bit longer, but it doesn't limit options in any way.
Yeah, I just have another comment. I've been up since 2 a.m. and I'm really tired and I have to leave. You needn't call yourself a nerd. You are an incredibly gifted speaker with good modulation. You say interesting things. You're a natural.
Thanks. Thank you. I practiced quite a bit, so thanks.
One more.
Yeah, you're a great tattoo artist. So I'm just curious, looking at all your pictures, looking at your pictures, I noticed that a lot of your clients, they're non-melanated skin.
Yes.
And so I am very particular about tattoo artists, and I was wondering in your studies, are they having special courses or whatnot to teach tattoo artists the mechanics of tattooing melanated skin, because black ink is
Yeah.
not going to look like that on me.
Yeah,
And
no.
also keloids and things like that. So I know when I get a tattoo, I do a lot of research, and I know that there is a few people in Toronto and Brooklyn who can do this. What are your thoughts on that, on just the education?
Yeah, so education in tattooing is a complicated subject. I wish it wasn't so. So the issues with that is that tattooing is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So every state has different requirements for how you become a tattoo artist. Washington is one of the more lax places. So anybody interested in tattooing, I recommend you do a lot of research. Oregon, however, requires formal schooling, which in concept is a really great idea for exactly the reasons that you bring up. Tattooing on darker skin tones is a whole different ballgame. I myself have only done it 2 or 3 times, and only with complete transparency to the client and them being comfortable with that. You have to take into consideration anything on your skin, including age spots, anything like that. The skin is a filter for the tattoo. So when you're tattooing over scar tissue, age spots, darker skin tones, you have to adjust for that. And just not a lot of people, unfortunately, have that experience or are willing to take that on. It's something that I personally am trying to learn more about. So in learning to tattoo, you often tattoo fake skins. Nowadays, they make fake skins in many different skin tones, which is incredible. So that's what I'm working on right now in my free time, trying to educate myself better. But because Washington doesn't require formal schooling, it's something that each artist has to want to take on in their own free time, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Tell people one more time where they can find you for tattoos.
Yeah, so I work out of the Copper Wolf Tattoo and Fine Art Gallery in Tumwater.
Let's thank Cass. Yes, that was great. Thank you. Okay, let's also thank Erik up in the booth there for getting this all together. Or you'd still be hearing jokes from me and stories. All right, our next speaker is Pamela Phelps. Pamela handcrafts wearable. Excuse me. A little dry here. Pamela handcrafts wearable art that makes a bold statement. As a gifted jewelry designer who creates unique handcrafted jewelry, Pamela seeks out unusual cut gems and one-of-a-kind notions, to conceive each piece as a distinctive connection to each other and to the wearer. Hand-making her own custom silver components, her works are edgy, courageous, and reflect who she is both as a designer and a person. Earning a BA from Washington State University in Fine and Studio Arts, Pamela has been inspired by artists and forms of art from around the world, especially Indonesian art. In addition to her work as a designer of unique jewelry, she has poured much of her expertise and art experience into owning and managing the Proctor Art Gallery. And you can look that up under proctorart.com. PROCTORART.com. Located where else? In the Proctor Business District. Pamela participates in numerous shows and events which provide an opportunity for her to interact directly with those who love the look and feel of handcrafted exceptional jewelry. Her necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and rings are showcased in the Proctor Gallery, and many of her new projects are visible by following her at Pamela Phelps Designs on Instagram, Facebook, and her gallery website. Let's welcome Ms. Pamela. There you go.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you, Davis. I really appreciate you inviting me to Tripod. I think after the 15 minutes, you'll understand a little bit more about me and how wearable art has affected my life and my art. So this is me in high school. So I've been an artist since I can remember. Jewelry's always been a special thing for me. You can see I've got all kinds of rings on. And really, where did the wearable art and love of that start? In college, whoops. In college, this was my art history class, and I didn't realize it then, but I do now, that a lot of these images really ministered to me. And this piece that I'm wearing right now, I designed for a place that I also exhibit, and that is Barlow Art Gallery. And I was fortunate enough to reclaim it and have it as my own. But you can see some of the influences of their collars and ceremonial pieces definitely resonate with me. As long as I can remember, I've just been an artist. Jewelry has been a significant part of old ancient civilization, and this is definitely an example of that. I then had a day job. I worked at Nordstrom in cosmetics, where I used my artistry in painting faces. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Nordstrom is a very special place. I was very impressed by the specialization that they have in all of their pieces. They showcased designer things, and their whole philosophy on treating people was very unique and really resonated with me. So I was exposed to a lot of designers. This is myself and Bob Mackie. And if nobody knows who Bob Mackie is, he designed gowns for Cher and and many other designers. It was really fun. I also met Oscar de la Renta, who was very elegant and posh and simple in compared to how extravagant Bob Mackie was. But again, really made an impression on me. Then after that, I started my family. So art kind of got pushed aside. This is my sweet husband and my 2 kids. Although I ended up doing art all along, but just not any jewelry making. But as you can see, I've got jewelry on, not a necklace, but earrings and bracelets. And then my brother was in the wine business, and he asked me to do a beaded bangle to identify all of their wine glasses apart from each other. And his group were sommeliers and restaurateurs, and it was really a lot of fun. So of course I just couldn't make a little ring with a dangle on it. I had to bend some wire and just have a lot of fun with what I did? Well, it took on a life of its own, and the restaurateurs and the sommeliers all asked me to do things for them. So I ran around delivering all of these different stem jewels to them, and it was a lot of fun. Well, with that, I was exposed to bending wire and picking out certain beads and things for these stem jewels. I decided to make my own jewelry. I need some water. So here is one of my first trunk shows. And of course, preparing for my trunk shows, all of my clients, animals, just decided to help themselves to this beautiful format. And that was a lot of fun for me too. So I'm going to show you a collection of my jewelry, going kind of back to the art history. A lot of the pieces that I looked at were centered around a talisman. And those were protective amulets that a lot of people wore back in time. And so I designed around them. So they all have different meanings. These are twin dragons, I think, and I love pearls. There's certain gemstones that I really like to design with that I'll show you a little bit later on. The twin fish is another really significant piece that I design with. The twin fish mean abundance, and it's also a feminine kind of connection to the earth. And so I have several pieces that have twin fish. How do I go about designing these pieces? I usually start with that centerpiece, and then I start thinking about what complements it, or what kind of gemstone do I want to add to it. This is a jade piece that, and the pieces on the outside are chalcedony, and then I accent with a little bit of silver that's from Bali. This piece is another twin fish. It's also a jade piece with some dangling golden citrine. I love the crystals, and pearls, again, are one of my favorite pieces to design with. The other pieces that I love to do are Buddhas. I just love them so much. I think they're strong, and I just love the whole Indonesian Buddhist influences. Now I'm going to get into some of my favorite stones. This is labradorite. It is a protective stone. It has inner strength. It shields the wearer against negativity. It has an element in it called feldspar, and feldspar has this gold flash, and it's beautiful to me. It kind of, I think, really what it reminds me sometimes is of when I went fishing with my dad, and we would catch salmon, and that glow that was on all of the, I'm sorry, I'm just blanking right now on what that is, but the scales, yeah. So here's another labradorite piece that and really shows the flash. So in a lot of labradorite, there's golden and blue flash. And then again, I'm adding a few pieces of the Bali silver. Marcasite bar with a little bit of gold accent, so I've mixed some metals together. I work mostly with sterling silver. I use 14 karat gold fill just to keep my prices down a little bit. And then the labradorite at the bottom. Here is a piece, the centerpiece is from Hill's tribe in Indonesia. It's called Karen Hills Tribe, and they're all handmade pieces that I'm really attracted to and use quite a bit. I like the tone of the silver is kind of white rather than, it's similar to Mexican silver, where I think the percentage of silver isn't as high, and it gives this kind of satin, beautiful tone. The gemstones, again, are all hand cut, and they're irregular. That's another thing that attracts me, so they're very imperfect and really draw me to those pieces. They're a little bit more difficult to design with because they're not perfect. They're not fabricated, so they're not exactly the same, but in that is really a lot of charm, and there's just something about being perfectly imperfect. Here's labradorite again with some sunstone, which is something that's mined in Oregon. I ran out of the labradorite and didn't quite know what to do with the rest of it, and I only had a small amount of the sunstone. And just sitting there sometimes at my design table, I will come up with ideas that I didn't necessarily start out to do. Here are some earrings that are labradorite with the Hills Tribe shell motif at the bottom and pearls again. This is ruby and labradorite, kind of a showier, bigger earring, but light in its look. Labradorite again too. I think sometimes the stones are so beautiful that I don't really need to worry so much about design. More labradorite. Moonstone is another stone that I absolutely love. It has the same feldspar quality to it. It has a blue glow to it. More. This is a piece that has the moonstone at the bottom with labradorite. Pearls are another one of my favorite items to design with. I love the whole idea of them. Pearls are an irritant in the mollusk, and the more it's irritated, the more nacre is built around the pearl and the shinier it gets. And I just love that whole idea. So using the pearl as a centerpiece with this amethyst piece. And then I use pyrite as an accent usually, although this is all pyrite. Pyrite is another protective stone. It's also, it also is self-protecting and unblocks creativity. Here's my studio, part of it, and my design table. So I love being challenged by mixing different stones together. So coral, turquoise, another carved piece, hand-carved piece. This is also turquoise and coral. I started becoming a little frustrated, could not find the findings that I wanted to express myself, and so I wouldn't call myself a silversmith, but I guess I do that. So here are some of my pieces where I have created some silver to complement my pieces. I also hand build some of my chains. Here are some fish, which is another topic that I love to do. Skulls, and the swirl pattern is something that I add to a lot of my pieces. Here's a simple bracelet. And here I am at the Proctor Art Gallery, so I have a case there. I came to the gallery as a jewelry artist, and then about 3 years after that, became the owner. I will be celebrating my 10th year at Proctor Art Gallery. It's really a lovely space. I have a great team of artists. And then this year, I became involved in the Barlow Gallery, so I do exhibit my work there as well. And they are, their jewelry is located in the Murano Hotel, which is a wonderful visit. You'll have to go see all of our work. And that's it.
Thank you. Take some questions. Somebody here?
I'm curious, have you ever worked with Ellensburg Blue or had requests for that? And I was noticing your silver. Are there local sources you get for that? Or I'm curious, do you get it in sheets? Do you smelter? Or what are some of the processes for that?
Kind of all of the above. There is a place where a lot of jewelers get their silver, and that's Rio Grande in Arizona. And I buy it in a big coil. If I'm using wire, I also buy it in sheets, and then that's where I cut it. I also have a lot of scraps that I'll melt down and hammer into something and put it through a rolling mill to make a sheet of things that I can use. And I have not worked with the stone that you were asking about. I have had some collectors bring some in. I am just honing my skill on setting stones, so I'm a little conservative in taking on anybody else's precious stones until I feel real comfortable with that.
Hi, I was curious why you said you don't consider yourself a silversmith, because I think your silver really elevates your whole jewelry design.
Thank you. Most of my designs are really gem-based. They're just, they have such meaning, and they're so beautiful to me, especially the handcrafted ones, that I started working with silver and became a silversmith just to add to my work, but it's not the basis of my work. Well, you'll see a lot of jewelers are pretty much silver, and they'll set stones in their silver work, and then it's on a silver chain. I have few pieces that are like that. Most of mine are, so anyway, that's just kind of, the practiced hand makes the most natural gesture, and my natural gesture with silversmithing is not there yet, for my standards. But thank you for saying that.
Do you ever cut stones?
No. I leave that to another person that has that art.
Any other one last question? Peter?
Not a question, but this is a Bob Mackie jacket I'm wearing. So I
How
serendipitous, and it was given to me by Rosarie Lynch, who's a West Seattle photographer. I mean, a Tacoma photographer.
Thank you.
Well, he's lovely. The sweetest. He was the sweetest man. Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Let's give Pamela a big applause. Thank you. That was wonderful. We have one more speaker this evening. Before I introduce her, I wanted to point out that as you leave the building here on the right-hand side, if you'd like to do a sign-up sheet to get emails, there's a paper. It says email sign-up and a pin. Feel free to do so. I prefer you print your information, and then you will learn about all the tripods as they come up. Now, for our last speaker, it's someone from Seattle. I asked to come down, and her name is Kelly Lyles, and Kelly is known equally for paintings, art cars, and colorful clothing, exhibiting around the U.S. for 30 years. Growing up internationally, she found that laughter is universal. Her artworks have a humorous twist, often involving visual puns, pop art, and Americana. Although different themes, media, all are based on representational arts steeped in classical training. For her, for her addiction series, the quote, the 12 steps to art puns, Frida's corn chips, Kleenex, Rubens Rubin, and Warhol, etc. Painting pop stars, Britney, Bieber, Nicki, on Pop-Tarts, their flamboyant personalities as important as the music. Kelly created Candyland, 50 candy portraits and 15 feet painted board. Others are 28 Rottens, Spansters, Benson and Hedgehogs, Mice-A-Roni, etc. Her studio home and art cars are featured in radio, TV, print, and everywhere, and everyone in Seattle recognizes her. Now, before she gets up, I want to say one more thing. I met Kelly about the mid-'90s. I was going to an art show in Seattle, and it was packed at one of the old art houses. And I walked by, I had never seen an art car, and I saw this car, and it was just covered in art. You'll find out in a moment if you don't. I walked inside to this extremely crowded room, and I looked up, and I saw a woman who was dressed like the car. And so I walked over, and I said, "Excuse me, this is a wild guess, but is that your car out there?" And she said, "Yes, it is." And we shook hands. I walked away, and we've known each other ever since. With that, Kelly Lyles, come join us.
You're clicking, right? And you're clicking fast. There's a... Talking into here? Okay. Hi, most of I know most of you already. Obviously, I'm Kelly. I took him very literally. He said 50 slides. You guys didn't look like you had anywhere close to 50 slides. So there was, and I think they're going to be pretty self-explanatory. I told Davis to just start clicking. Just from a tiny tot, I was very opinionated about the clothing I wore. I insisted on wearing my pajamas to school one time, and my mother tried desperately to talk me out of it. She did not. I think the repercussions, I learned my lesson. My parents both had radio shows. My stepmother had a TV show. My brother was on the radio at 2 years old, so I'm pretty comfortable with the public. And my stepmother was had a TV show. She was an actress. So we were always, my family encouraged creativity, which I think is pretty lucky. I taught drawing for 20 years. And it was always shocking to me to hear people waited till their parents died to come take an art class because they were told they wouldn't make any money in art. So that's sad because you don't tell a kid you can't play basketball in junior high because he's not going to make it in the NBA. But my cousins are Broadway performers, so that was pretty self-evident. That's my brother and I in our lederhosen. Then we lived in Japan. We lived in England, Switzerland, Denmark, and Japan. That's the house in Minneapolis. At the end, that I threw a little hissy fit because I didn't think it was nice enough. I thought, my mother told me we were moving to a Tudor house, so I thought we were coming to a castle. So yeah, I was pretty much of a spoiled brat. Still am, but just hide it better. I went to school for commercial art. I've always drawn. I won my first art contest on the Queen Elizabeth when I was 7 years old. We always took ocean liners. My mother was afraid of flying, so we always crossed the ocean. We came back to the States every 2 years. But to make a living at it, I figured I would do commercial art. So I wanted to be a fashion illustrator, and that's right around when computers came in and everything just went to photography, and there wasn't a whole lot of fashion illustration happening. And frankly, I was only okay at it. I wasn't that great. I've done a few murals. It's a lot of work, and I'm lazy. I would much rather work on something smaller at home, but I did the Cal Anderson mural for Sound Transit. That's the only deadline I've ever missed because I never got the email telling me to do it. So she thought she'd given me 2 months. She gave me 10 days. And I had a trip planned, so I missed it. But it really worked out because they had thrown the date when it was supposed to happen. It poured rain. Nobody showed up. So a year later, when they brought it out of storage to debut it, the marriage equality had passed, and they had the mayor's speeches, they had bands, they had rainbow cupcakes. all these politicians, so it was fantastic. So that was a mural down in Kent. So this is in my house and studio. I had probably the car Davis was talking about was the Leopard car. And it was Leopard Bernstein, named after, Leonard Bernstein, obviously. So for the car shows, I would dress in my little leopard outfits. And people still give me leopard clothing. I haven't had the car for over 20 years. But they still, and people say, you always wore leopard. No, I didn't. I wore leopard like 6 times a year. I'm in recovery, 38 years, and so I did this series called The 12 Steps, based on stupid stuff we used to do. Passing out in your food was a regular occurrence. I actually saw that happen, somebody causing a huge car crash and staggering around saying, well, I'll be a little late on the phone. So that where's the car, losing the car on a regular basis, waking up to a stranger, who are you? I also did trempe-l'oeil furniture. I thought this was such a genius idea. You could, make art you could use. Well, it was a terrible idea because you had to schlep the furniture around to the shows, and it was a limited audience. But that one, the phone on the bottom, I used to try to pick that up every night. I thought, that's pretty good. I have fooled myself. That was my studio phone, and I would routinely go to hang it up at the. This one I sold at half price when Martha Stewart went to jail. Again, marketing is not my strong point. I thought she was going down in flames, so I sold it very cheap. But the frozen dinner underneath all the gourmet magazines. I do a lot of figurative work. I love people. I love life drawing, so that's just some of my drawings. That one I like, the anatomy lesson. I work in oil, acrylic, and watercolors. I think I'm a pretty mediocre watercolor painter, though I like that painting on the right, but I've done lots of them. There's probably 5 I like, but that was a good one. I did that one for June, who's sitting in we did a show called Visual Biographies, where artists were assigned to a senior, and then and a lot of people did abstracts, sculptures, but I did a very realistic portrait. Excuse me. That's my friend Tim, and we all drive art cars, including Louisa in the front row. So Tim drives a car that is all yarn, and he actually did the frame. I didn't. I can't take credit for that. So I like doing pet portraits. I like a little humor in the pet portraits. That is a Texas dog in the middle. The one on top, the refrigerator, I actually had it magnetized or something so you could attach magnets to the refrigerator portion of the painting. So there's a little P next to the princess and the P back there. The cat, there's an actual little 3D. So just some more of my pet portraits. The one on the far right was for Tom Robbins. That was a gift from his wife, from Alexa, and they collect Circus Sideshow banners. So that's a little banner. This one of my more fun commissions. A friend knew someone retiring, worked with someone retiring from NOAA after 30 years, and the man was British. And the Brits you can get a commemorative letter from the Queen. So he said, paint a letter from the Queen. Well, I'm not going to paint the letter. I'm going to Photoshop the letter. But I did the painting of the Queen. He said, you got to make her funny. Well, how do you make the Queen funny? But I gave her a diamond tooth. That's actually a sparkling 3D tooth. And I gave her corgi, of course. And then there's some actual jewels in the crown. But the hardest part was I finished ahead of schedule. So proud of myself. I couldn't find a tassel, and they always have a tassel in the middle. And there's giant ones for curtains, and there's little teeny 3 ones for the top of a, graduation helmet. But you don't buy tassels, so I had to make that. Just some of my artist series. These were, spoofs on the color blue, obviously, or the Ray Charles. It spells out his name on the sunglasses, Ray-Bans. This was the Holy Family. That was Elvis's mom and the Colonel, and the baby, instead of a lute, has a guitar. I was in an Elvis show for Bumbershoot, so I did a Black Velvet Elvis Costello. This was more of the artist series of puns. The Reuben's Reuben, he's got a sandwich and a dill pickle. the Peter Paul Rubens, and then my Frida's corn chips. Chips, obviously, the spoof on the TV show. Warhol, obvious. I've done at least 27 in this series, and I call them the rodent series, even though, a duck isn't a rodent, but Starduck, Spamster, Mice-A-Roni, Vincent and Hedgehogs. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, Pop Goes the Weasel. I've got 170 orders for the squirrel with the pearl earring. And I posted one, and it was a contest in Amsterdam. And I didn't win, but I keep getting commissions, so I've got 170 orders. I've painted 120 so far. And they're each in a frame, so I'm always looking for ornate gold, cheap frames. And they're little, but I never get sick of them. People say, aren't you sick of them? No, because it's sort of soothing, painting something you know. There's no pressure in paint. Yeah. I like that. 6 different people have told me they're buying that painting, and then none of them came back. One guy was even, I'm going to the cash machine. Nope. And that's one of my favorites, but it's so odd because that doesn't happen with most paintings. They buy it or they don't. But at least 6 people have said they were. That one I love. Karen Hackenberg bought that, which is flattering because she's a hell of a painter, and she bought that as a gift for her husband. You gotta love it when other artists buy your work. So that was the 50 paintings. I did a 15-foot version of the board game Candyland, and it was 15 by 12, the size of the gallery, so that while they were looking at the paintings, they could jump around and play the game. And I ate every bit of candy. I keep candy in my studio to lure myself to go to work. I'm pre-diabetic. I'm a sugar junkie. I'm AA, so now I like sugar instead of alcohol. But it doesn't work. I mean, the sugar gets me out there, but I also make excuses to go out to the studio to eat the sugar. This was the history of art done in Russian nesting dolls. So it's Lascaux cave paintings, Da Vinci, Mona Lisa, Van Gogh, Warhol, and Marilyn. Pollock and Marilyn. This guy just happened to be walking by, and that painting, the Book of Jobs, is painted on floppy disks. Those are actually floppy disks. And he just happened to be walking by in floppy disk, the obsolete tour. I'm like, don't move. That's the Pop-Tarts. So it's Britney Spears, Nicki Minaj, Justin Bieber, and Psy, Gangnam Style. And those are, it's actual packaging. So that's my first art car was a Pinto. I was just embarrassed to be seen in a Pinto, but it only had 10,000 miles on it. And I've always loved horses and been obsessed with horses. And then I was hurt badly when I was 10 or 12. I rode English style, and when we came to the Texas and tried to ride a cow pony who wanted none of me, and he dumped me pretty hard. So now I'm terrified of horses. I still love cowboy outfits. That was my second art car, Leopard Bernstein. That one is in a museum in Arizona now, in Douglas, near Bisbee, and there's about 50 art cars. It's really a great, it's very fun if you like art cars. It's a very cool place. So this is it was my current car. I bought a new car a couple months ago, which I don't think I updated. But this is, you do what you love is my theme for art cars when people ask what should they do. And I love fashion, so this one's all girly accessories. And the paper, or the outfits on the front are magnetic, and you can move them onto the paper doll. And obviously that paper doll was me 20 pounds and 20 years ago, but I keep thinking, do I make it wider? Do I add gray hair under the... So these are just other friends' cars. Some of these people I know, some I don't. Actually, I know 4 of those. So that's all art cars working with metal. The Chicken is so fun to ride in. I love riding in the Chicken whenever I go to Houston. The cupcakes accidentally got on the freeway after the Houston parade. It was the funniest thing. I was in front of them, and the look of terror on their faces as they were. They were supposed to be on the parallel road, but. And there's a lot of animal-themed cars. Yeah, that flaming El Pulpos, that's always at Burning Man, but there's a lot of flaming art cars. That's my buddy Hamburger Harry up there. So I was in a show was about West Seattle, so I don't know, there was a 70s or 60s cheesy TV show called Honey West, so she's Honey West Seattle. And I used my cat she always walked an ocelot, so I made my little Bengal pose. Yeah. So that's about it. Thanks. Anyone answer questions? Thank you, Davis, for doing that.
Oh, yeah. Any questions? Yes. Gentlemen, you have all the questions tonight. Let's start out.
Now, I'm a big Facebook follower of yours for years, and I've been following your squirrels. And I noticed that you often have 20 or so of them out on your desk at the same time. Do you just like paint the pearl on each one?
No.
No, just individually each one. Oh,
Well,
my.
I finally figured this out. He's right, and it's usually like 5 or 8 at a time. Like to do all the blue headbands at the same time, and then all this at the same. Do all the eyes at the same time, but all the pearls are actual earrings. So, and they're each. I'm just always looking for earrings at thrift stores. So each one is an actual 3D pearl, And I used all my own jewelry. I just cannibalized it in the beginning, and now I'm just always looking. But.
So, my question is going away. It's not a question, it's really a comment. So, you have sculpted, I've had the privilege of showing Kelly's work over and over again. So it's really wonderful to see kind of this blast from the past. But you've sculpted your life in such a way as an artist, beyond any artist in art anywhere. Like your life is your art, and you're a huge supporter of other artists, and you're at every event. So can you talk about, all the other parts of your life? Like, she writes on the back of her hand all the things that she's doing, which is like covered, and it's on the back of her hand because if she washes her hand, the palm rubs away. So anyway, and then she volunteers at every theater in town, and your art tours. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to all those other things? Because you left out a huge portion of your life, but I have to commend you for the way you live your life.
Thank you. I do have, I have a great life. I really do. And started by getting laid off the one day job I had. I think I worked there a year and got canned, and have just lived on my own ever since. And it's great because you have all this flexibility. And I go out a lot. I go to up to 10 things on a Saturday, which people think is nuts. But what better way to procrastinate all the shit you got to do at home? There's always dishes or a leaking gutter and out of sight, out of mind. So I would much rather be at somebody else's art opening. And I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people. I just know thousands of people. So somebody's got an art opening every night. And I was telling them, my realtor, I was trying to buy houses. I've been turned down for 14 mortgage brokers, but I pulled it off. I've bought 2 houses. But my realtor said, don't they know you don't have a 30% food budget, when they're looking at your finances? Because you don't eat it, you never buy groceries. You're at an art opening every night. I thought, she's right. I really do. But I got asked to lead art tours by my former boss at Bellevue College, and she was leading art tours to China. So I agreed to do one, and we did pay our own airfare, but then they paid everything else. So that was fabulous. So she took me on art tours to China, Prague, Berlin, and Budapest. We were working on one to Croatia that kept falling through because of COVID. We did South Africa. Where else did we do? I went on 5. Oh, Cuba twice. Cuba was easy to sell. And one other one. But that was wonderful, really wonderful. And they're always art-focused tours. And people, I am very high energy, and I'm technically anemic, which is funny, because the thought of me with more energy is scary. But the complaint I always got was that we're doing too much. You know, it's jam-packed from the minute you got up. But what would you have skipped? Nothing. So I do live life at a fairly high pace. But it's fun. You know, and with all the political crap, and I'm guessing most of us think alike, but maybe not. But either way, whichever side you're on, it's a shit show out there. So hopefully that's edited for YouTube. But you might as well have some distractions. And I mean, I write my letters. I go to the marches. I do my little bits on art. But in the meanwhile, I'm not going to stay home and cry. I'm going to get out there and have fun, because that's all we got left. So what else? I do dress fairly bright colors. This is somewhat sedate, but I always have. And it's weird to me how many artists don't, because even in art school, people were just in, you know, plaid or black and khaki, and like, really? So, because I do, you know, it's a form of expression. So I love that she's saying that, because now I have an excuse for all my procrastinating. I'm out there being art. I'm not shirking. I am, you know, it's public art. But art cars are the ultimate public art. We bring our art to the road. And a friend said, I forget when I borrowed your car, I got allowed that extra 20 minutes. Because everybody wants to talk to you, and they always do. They always figure out who's driving a car in a parking lot. So, but it's, you know, life is really good. And that's it.
Let's thank Lynn. I mean Kelly.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. He's a really good cook, or they are really good cooks. If you ever get invited, say yes.
All right. Before we end the night, I just wanted to, Lynn particularly asked me to tell you all about the next tripod, which will be on October 17th. Will feature, can't read my writing or text, Sheria Kinney from the Tool Library at the Downtown Library, Jennifer English from Spaceworks, and Claudia Redenier, the artist showing a special commission. So next month, 4 weeks from tonight, I want to thank you all for coming. Let's thank Erik one more time. Thank you, Erik. And don't forget to sign up on the email list if you'd like to receive things through email. Thank you all for coming.